Alright ladies, here is the next video, and I picked this one because it has quite a bit of area to clone. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be cloning, and this is a border that I created in Photoshop, and I just want to clone over that to blend it all into the background. And it gets kind of tricky down here by the ball, which is what happens sometimes up against skin, so I wanted to show you that, but it's kind of easier to see in the orange ball than it is. I don't want that. That just kind of did it by itself, so I'm just going to right click, delete to get rid of that. Okay, I've got it on clone and heal, and I have it on selected again. And the reason I do that is because it shows me the area that I chose, and it also shows me the area that Lightroom chose to see if I agree with the area that Lightroom chose or not. So I've got kind of a big brush because I've got a lot of territory that I'm going to cover, and because of the texture and how everything goes over here, this is kind of like if you're doing leaves or background. It doesn't have to be real perfect, it can just be kind of general. So I'm going to just kind of clone over a big space and see what Lightroom chooses. Okay, it chose this section over here, and you see that it chose James's head right there, which I do not want. I want it to match better. So what I'm going to do is I'm holding the left part of my mouse pad, and I'm just moving this selected area over this way a little bit to see if that's a little bit closer. And now it's selecting this area, which I think is a much better match. So I'm going to keep that one, and I'm going to select a new space that needs to be cloned. I'm holding the mouse pad down with my left finger on the left hand side. That actually is a pretty good match right there, so I'm going to keep that. And except I kind of don't like the way it took that border, so what I need to do is I can't re-clone in this same area. Do you see how it's not letting me pick up that? So I need to go just outside of that, and I'm going to just select that with a straight line, and hopefully it'll, yeah, perfect. All right, I'm going to do the same thing up here. Just going to select kind of a straight line and see what it chooses for me. Okay, once again, see how it chose that section that has James's arm, which I don't want. So I'm going to left click on this selected area that they chose, that Lightroom chose. I'm going to move it down and just kind of move it around until I see an area that matches a little bit better. That has the shadow in it. I don't want that. So I'll go down a little bit further until I can kind of see, you know what, that's not perfect. It's not perfect, but it's a decent match, and just for the sake of this, I'm going to go for it, except I don't like that little shadow up there in the top, so I might move it down just a smidge and see if I can get it a little bit better. That's pretty decent. Now this part over here isn't a great blend, so I'm just going to work on that later. I'm going to get this spot over here, Lightroom selects, perfect match. I'm going to go for that. Now this part down here by the ball is going to be very tricky, and I'll show you what happens. I'm going to do a big grab first, just to show you what happens with that orange ball when something clones up against it. Okay, definitely do not want that spot that Lightroom selected, so I'm going to move it around. Just move it up. Now, that might be decent, but do you see how the ball, the orange from the ball is bleeding into that area? I don't want that at all. So I'm going to right click, delete that spot, only that spot. I need to make my brush smaller. And that's going to be kind of an intricate area that I'm working on. So I'm going to make a smaller line, and I'm not touching the ball. I'm trying not to, but I'm going right up against it. I might have touched it a little bit, and I'll see. Now Lightroom selects that, and you know what? That actually is not bad. Now this is my line that I made. This is what Lightroom selected over there. I don't like how they selected that blunt line along the border. Do you see how that shows up right there? I could change it. I'm going to leave it for now. Now if my line were up a little bit higher, do you see how the orange ball is kind of bleeding into it a little bit? Kind of hard to tell. Anyway, sometimes that will happen. So you just have to be very, very careful. This is when it's good to use a 3:1 zoom and just get it right up there and be totally, totally precise. You see, there's a good, the orange is bleeding into it now. Move it down a little bit. Probably should move it down a little bit more. Very tedious. I don't know if that's necessarily perfect. I'm going to zoom it up a little bit closer and see. There is a teensy bit of bleeding. See if I can get rid of that. I think that looks better. Okay, then I'm going to zoom back out to fit my space. And that happens a lot when you're cloning up against skin really close to get rid of a little piece of the background. So 3:1, definitely. I would like that, except it's got a little bit of somebody's face in there that I don't want. So I'm going to move it over there and select from a different spot. I think that looks better. Now I'm going to go ahead and color in this last space. This is with Lightroom 5 that allows you to do all this coloring, and definitely don't want the ball in that space. So I'm going to move their selected area up there. Still doesn't look good for some reason on that spot down there. Not sure what's going on there. I'm going to just try, see, every time I click somewhere that I cloned before, they're popping things up, and I just click in another spot and get rid of those. Now it's getting crazy. Delete that. Okay, get back till I can pull up, just kind of move it around till I get to a spot that hasn't been cloned. Remember, you can't re-clone over an exact spot, so that's about the closest I can get. So I'm going to try to get rid of those two little white spots that I didn't like. Now, if you're using a version that is Lightroom 3 or Lightroom 4, you don't have the option to do all of these crazy lines. You just have to use circles, but you can manipulate the size of your circles, and that's what I used to use all the time. So that is it. That is a more detailed cloning edit, and I'm going to stop right there.